Hello and welcome to Cage Fighting. It's your main man Andy Gillard here. Hope everyone is keeping well right now.
Hi everybody, Matt Guy here. Hope everyone's doing splendid.
I am Knuff. Hello.
Fellas, it's been a long old time since we've actually recorded a podcast. It's 3 weeks in our lives, I think, since we've actually got together. I know we've had a podcast there each time, but Matt, you've got back from the land of the surrender monkeys. How was it?
Yeah, I'm back, baby, and it was great. I'm going to say something that's going to upset Stu here as a flag waving, spam eating.
I don't like spam.
Brit. The French have just got it all figured out. They really do. Like, let's start with the roads for one. Right, I never had a single bit of road rage until I got back on UK soil. And bear in mind, I'm driving on the wrong side of the road, like, consistently for the first time ever in my life. You pay toll roads on some of the roads, right? Not all of them, but there's not a single pothole. Every roundabout is beautiful with loads of flowers on it. And the towns and the cities want you to go, so the parking's pretty much free everywhere. Like, why didn't that just why can't that just be here? Like, why did I have to pay £1.10 British pence to park in shitty Wolverhampton city centre the other day to go into somewhere where no one wants to go? Whereas I could go to France and go somewhere that's absolutely beautiful that everyone wants to go to, and I park for free. It's just insane.
Because if they charged it, then they'd burn it to the ground, wouldn't they? Like everything else.
Well,
so there's no point doing it.
Maybe we should have a bit of a backbone then.
Yeah.
That's why they've got it right, isn't it? Like, we'll piss and moan on a podcast about stuff. What they'll do is they'll kill somebody and parade them in the streets. Yeah. Like, they really go for it. They know how to riot in France. We'll just steal rice. Like, it's not the same, is it?
It's true. And they eat loads of bread, which is my dream. And the what I really want to happen is I want to order bread now at 10 to 9. And I want someone in a little golf cart to bring it to me tomorrow morning, like what happened on the vast majority of my stay when I was over there as well.
Delightful.
Yeah. Was he wearing onions and a beret at this time as well?
No, sadly not. But it's funny because, like, on one of the campsites, some kid came past, dead cheery, happy kid, and he just went, "Bonjour, monsieur." And I was like, "Don't hello, sir, me, you fucking little scrote." Like, I'm still a young guy. Leave me alone. And he's like, "Hello, sir. Hello." But no, I had a very good time. Thank you.
Super.
Went and did the Normandy stuff, which was always something I've always wanted to do, and it was very, very eye opening. We had a great time. Thank you.
The Nicolas Cage picture you put on the socials, what was that actually about?
So this was like a really affluent beach resort town. To put it into context, if you were having a meal on one of the beach restaurants, they weren't like physically on the sand, but it was just off from the beach, a Coke was €8. So I think it's like a harbour for the rich and famous would go there. So I'm guessing these are people that have been to that place because there were names that weren't they were famous, but they weren't mainstream celebrities. There'd be no reason to have them on a plaque. Do you know what I mean? So the only reason they could be there is because they've been to that place and they had a photo or something. I don't know.
Right. Okay. I get you. Stu, you're off on your holidays next week. Your spiritual home of Whitby, isn't it? I believe.
Yeah.
Like, I've never been to Whitby. I've been near Whitby. So, what is it about Whitby that takes you back like every year?
I actually don't know. I was talking to Matt the other day when he was picking up his fire stick for his mum, which is this is how we roll. Again, why did Amazon France betray you so? Why could this not just work? Why did you have to go through third-party operations to get a fire stick for your mother? I have no idea. When I was first told about this place, and I said, yeah, I'll get to with you every year, and I said, okay, yeah, fine, I'll come. Bear in mind, at this point, I hadn't been on holiday for like 12 years or something like that. So I went along, and it's, again, like the harbour at Weymouth is. Obviously not as dripping in oil money and whatever, and there's a lot of trawlers, but there is some little yachts and stuff.
Hmm.
But you've got that, and then you've got a British fishing town, which is what it is still, obviously because of the scampies and whatever. And the whole goth thing as well doesn't really, not my thing either, and neither is steampunk. So you'd think, well, why am I doing this every single year for the last since 2007? But there's just a vibe about the place that, yeah, there might be 23 pubs in half hour walk of each other, and you can go just for the real ale trail of that. I've done 14 in one day. That's the most I've got up to. But that was only stopped because we remember when we were playing Middlesbrough and then moved it to the Friday night, and we'd planned it for the weekend. So I got it all set up. We went up on the Friday afternoon. I was going to get there, get the early bus out because it's only you have to go to Middlesbrough. If you go on the train, you have to go to Middlesbrough and change there anyway. So I was going to get the bus to Middlesbrough, perfectly fine, and then you just go back. And so they moved it, and then I think it was like 36 quid, and that was like 6-7 years ago. And I would have had to the only way to get back was a late bus that terminated halfway and then walk along the moors in the dark because there were no taxis because it was out of season. So I thought, sod this. I'll just watch it on Sky. So 13, I've been in 13 pubs before and then went in this one where I was going to watch it. And then I obviously had another 4 points there. And I stayed in there and I could barely walk home to where I was staying. So that ruined the 17 pub extravaganza for another year, which I've still yet to do, but there's still time. But yeah, it's just you find these places where you try and explain to someone. I mean, like how I used to go to Claret Bay as a kid, like just over the other side of the hill from Aberystwyth. It's a caravan park in Wales, like real before it was a drug den, and apparently it's clean now. I don't know, I ain't been there for years. But all these places, I mean, it kind of reminds me of that. Well, yeah, it's not a haven where there's entertainment and stuff like that, and obviously there's pubs in the most perfect beach you can imagine, which is odd considering where it is in the north of England. And the North Sea is ice cold, but it's the sea it's going to be, and there's dolphins if you want to look at them. And it's just a really odd, strange place that you don't get unless you go there, and it's almost like you have to feel it for yourself, almost like the Matrix or the original trailer for that. It's just I'd say just go once, just to put anyone's mind at rest. Just go once. If you don't like it, then fine. It's not for everyone, obviously. But I will. If it wasn't for Wolves, then I could quite easily have moved there. Easily.
Fantastic. It sounds like a very Matt Guy kind of town.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I said this to you the other day.
Yeah, like you've got your real ale pubs, lots of walking in the hills and whatnot around it, and obviously goth girls.
Fucking sign me up, baby.
I suppose we better get to the news anyway on this one. There's only really one story at the moment, which is basically that Hollywood is shut currently. In May, the Writers Guild of America went on strike, the main issues being the lack of residuals from streaming media, also to limit the use of AI. It should only be used as a tool to help with research or to facilitate script ideas, not as a tool to replace writers. In a nutshell, writers were covered by the minimum basic agreement, a basic wage for any TV and film work. This didn't apply to streaming television, though, so whenever any writers worked for a streamer, they had to negotiate with the streaming companies. That agreement ran out on the 2nd of May. So the WGA's proposals meant that writers would get an additional $429 million per year. The AMPTP's offer was only 86 million extra. We'll come on to streaming in a little bit, but AI, I mean, we've all used ChatGPT here. Like, we've all used it personally I've used it for presentations, applications. I used it for the Spider-Man Sam Raimi episode that we did to plot out a few ideas. So as a bit of a quick test, I asked ChatGPT 3 questions. First one was, write a joke for me. Why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything. Okay, is that the standard we're talking about? The second question, write a Nicolas Cage joke for me. Why did Nicolas Cage become a beekeeper? I thought, okay, beekeeper? Is this going to be Wicker Man? You know, okay. Because he heard it was the only way to be BEE in every movie genre at once. So, like that doesn't even make sense. And the third one was write a joke in the style of the character Ted Lasso. Why did the Scarecrow win an award? Because he was outstanding in his field, like a proper footy player on the pitch. Cheers. I also asked it to do like a tear-jerking story with the characters from Succession. And it basically recapped Kendall's struggle to be the man to replace Logan. And then Connor had an accident and went to the hospital, but then he got better. And then the children had a renewed sense of purpose. And then I woke up and it was all a dream. Like, is AI really a contender to replace actual human beings in writing whole scripts of film and television? Can a robotic piece of software actually write with nuance and depth and emotion and understand humour? Matt, is it a bit fanciful to think that the AI is going to replace humanity in the arts?
In the visual, absolutely. In emotion, which is what humor and sadness and everything else. No, because you can't see. Right, so there's a video of James Acaster doing the rounds, speaking to some guy who says that the towns are full, and he's basically an old racist, and not Acaster, and everything, like, as much is said in the silence as is said with the words in that little skit or that little piece, and AI will not be able to recognize the humor in silence, or won't understand the nudge wink wink of some British humor, or do you know what I mean, the slapstick elements of certain American humor and stuff like that. Like, it's just to err is to human, as they say. And it just won't. It'd be impossible to do so. Like, if you was to ask for maybe give me some form of structure that I can work with, and then it gives you something like that around the romance genre, for example. Yeah, it'll give you something. It'll give you some kind of like typical cliched stuff that then you would work with then and build on top of it. AI might be able to give you the skeleton, but the meat will always come from the brain, I guess.
You're never going to subvert the genre when a piece of software will only know the genre. Yeah. Stu, what do you think on this one? I mean, could it have written something as extraordinary as the Barbie film? Like, let's be honest, we went into Barbie expecting it to be a film about a toy character and it being a bit silly and dumb, and actually what we was given is something which taught the world that men and women should be able to live on equal footing, and again, there was nuance to the movie that you probably wouldn't have recognised. So if you put into AI, I want a story about a toy of whatever thing, will that be able to truly understand what it is to be a human, do you think?
Not yet. I think that's the problem. That you go back, say when we started doing this 3 years ago, none of this was even possible then. It didn't exist 3 years ago. And now it's setting up structure, and the fact that it's even got to this point where it can kind of pretend to fool, and it kind of behaving almost like what you'd expect, but not quite. In that space of being nothing to now, you give it another 10 years? Who knows? I think that's where the problem comes in, and I think at that point you're going to be looking at, like they do with animation, where you're going to have a lot of it looking like hand-drawn stuff, but it's all computerized. And it'll be a very niche market where it actually is the old way. I think that's probably where it's going to end up. But I think that's where it gets scary, I suppose. And it is a threat because this is only the start. No one's going to stop it where it is now. They're just going to keep this. We didn't learn from Skynet. it's only going to get more and more intelligent and more convincing as the years go on. So long term, yeah, it might not. We can't envision it being a thing, but we couldn't envision where we are now 3 years ago either. So I wouldn't rule it out yet. Not at all.
I think the issue that I have with it as a facilitator for the arts is the fact that it will only know what it has been told. So Paul Thomas Anderson can come along and write a fantastic, hard-hitting script, and it can learn from that. But how is it going to innovate? It's not. It's just going to replicate Paul Thomas Anderson's work or Wes Anderson and give us something kooky. I mean, how many times on Twitter have we seen Harry Potter if it was done by Wes Anderson? And it's just shit. It just completely misses the point of Wes Anderson, the nuance of how he sets a scene. Like it's not going to understand those things unless you build the Terminator. It is the worry of it then going full Skynet and becoming sentient, I suppose, is an issue. I don't know. The 429 million that we spoke about before, this is spread across the industry. So that isn't like per studio. Someone has done a breakdown of how each studio would be impacted by that. So like Apple Studios, it would be $17 million they would have to pay. Sony 25, Amazon 32, Universal NBC would be 34, Paramount 45. But the big three, which is Warner Brothers Discovery, is 47 million. Netflix is 68 million, and Disney would have to spend $75 million in order to meet the WGA's demands. Across the past 5 years alone, David Zaslav, the CEO of WB Discovery, has earned $498.9 million alone. Disney last year made $82.7 billion. To put that into perspective, if Disney paid the $75 million that it would have had to, they would still have made $82 billion. Like it wouldn't have touched the size. It would have been utterly irrelevant in like the grand scheme of things to them. The increase is literally 0.09% of their annual revenue. It would be less than 1 pence in every $100. So it appears the big reason why streamers don't give out their numbers is purely down to this. So it stinks that they knew that this was coming. They don't want people to know how successful a show has been, because then the writer can say, I've written that show and that's been streamed 20,000 million times. And that's something for them that they can then monetize. And I think that the studios knew this was coming, and that's why they've never shared that information outside of their own boardrooms. They would just demand bigger paychecks at the back of it. Earlier this year, or was it late last year? Sorry, Netflix had its first fall in subscription numbers, but there has since been an uptick in numbers following the crackdown on password sharing. Disney dropped 4 million subscribers, albeit a little bit of that context is that it's to do with them losing the rights to Indian cricket, I believe. But obviously they still signed up to Disney and decided not to renew. So that's still 4 million they lost. Matt, I remember you recently saying you finally got round to binning off Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've said I'm done with Disney Plus at the end of this contract. I got rid of Prime last year. The only reason I've got Netflix still is because it's part of my contract. We've had the boom of the streamers. Is this the beginning of the bust? Have they bought this on themselves? Stu, what do you think?
Agreed. Things worked perfectly fine when there was like 3 of them, and things were on everything, and you could go and just watch, and you guess it'll be on either Prime or Netflix, or maybe available to rent, and then Disney Plus, and that was it. It was fine, but then you throw in all this other bollocks like Paramount Plus, which no one's ever gonna have. Or if you do, you have it for a month, and then you watch everything on there. Like I've said before, the best way to do it, really. But it's a lot of admin and setting alarms. Have it for a month, watch all you want, cancel. you've got other ones. I think there's Showtime as well now, and then there's obviously Peacock over there, in America. It's just too much. There's only so much that people will take, and when you've got things like this going on, which has always seemed dodgy anyway, why we'd never be told what the numbers were, and that thing that I sent you, the kind of funny X-cast with Gary Whitta, who wrote Rogue One and Book of Eli, where he was talking about how they've been cutting down trees to so that the strikers didn't have any shade outside where they were protesting, things like that illegally, and it's just dodgy stuff going on, and it's always the same. It's the fat cats at the top are going to get the money. The plankton at the bottom who actually do the work, they get fuck all, and they have what they saw completely on themselves. People won't. I mean, I looked at it the other like, is it with the Game Pass thing with putting Core on there now? That bumps up Game Pass numbers, so they can say, "Oh yeah, look, Game Pass. Everyone's under Game Pass now. Even if you play online with just FIFA, you've got Game Pass technically." But it's all manipulating the numbers, and that's what they've been doing with this for years. And all this nonsense of putting things out for a month and then cancelling it and deleting it forever so people don't get paid. Why make it in the first place? He just asks for things to be pirated. If they're not going to release them on Blu-ray, and we know why they've never done this. Again, because they don't want them to be paid more than they are. Well, what's the problem? Like you said, the percentage is so small, and it doesn't make any sense. I mean, there's me. We've talked about me buying Blu-rays and physical media and stuff before, but give people an option. If they're wanting to buy House of Cards box set on Blu-ray, let them. What difference does it make? You're getting people to pay twice because they still have Netflix anyway. So it's just baffling to me why it's got to this stage, other than the fact that it's pure greed.
Matt, are you in agreement with Stu there? Is this just all about the money? That's all it comes down to?
Well, yeah, I don't think it's for the love of the game. You know what I mean? But I've spent some time this week with my mate Chris, who moved over to Arizona and he's back for a wedding and such. And I was talking to him about this kind of thing, and the fact that wrestling is on BT Sport, it used to be on Channel 4 and stuff like that. And he says, man, if you think it's bad here, the division of media across platforms in the UK, he says, this is nothing compared to America. Like, there's multiple, like, a TV show, like AEW, for example, right? For those who don't watch it, you've got Collision, you've got Dynamite, you've got Rampage, right? 3 different shows, varying, different things on it. They'll all be on different paid-for streaming platforms in America. It's absolutely mad. He was talking me through it. Like, we have it, like, pretty good comparatively. So imagine what it's like over there. Like, you've got nothing platforms that will have like the contracts for like one thing that you want to watch, like one Premier League game, for example.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a mad money machine. And do I think it's like bust for streaming? No, because I think the new normal is to stream your TV. Now I can't remember the last thing I watched and sat like that. The last thing I sat down and watched when it was on TV, adverts and all, was that Italia documentary during the World Cup.
Yeah.
That was on a Monday night on Channel 4. That was it. Like, nobody watches normal terrestrial TV now, I don't think, like, when it's on. Well, people obviously will, but not many. So I don't think it's bust, but I just think people will veer towards the dark arts about it, and rightly so.
I wonder if, I don't know if this is just a Twitter thing, but if you're a fan of anything, you will always see people who are the exact opposite of you. I wonder if we're going to get that division, and we're going to get the wars between Netflix subscribers and Amazon subscribers and Disney. I wonder if we're going to end up going down that rabbit hole of people saying, well, you're a dickhead because you like Netflix when Disney's the place to be. Yeah. Right, is it going to be that kind of nonsense, do we think, in the future? Like, part of me wouldn't be surprised, because that's just humankind.
Yeah, but when you total them all up, I mean, if you wanted to watch, I mean, not even just random stuff. I mean, we have got that with to an American audience. So the Premier League's on Peacock, which I know they don't like. But for us, it is split between Sky, TNT, and Amazon for now. So you're paying 3 times just to watch that, and you don't even watch it. You don't get everything anyway. But if you wanted to watch just the big shows of the time, like when Silo was on, that's Apple. That's £7 a month. You wanted to watch, I don't know, that Brave New World thing, the Star Trek on Paramount Plus. Presume that's the same again. Obviously, Netflix is quarterback on Netflix, for example, and then you'll have Prime for delivery and you'll get something there. So you're already talking about best part of £30, which is what you used to pay for cable anyway. So it's just gone back to where it used to be. Nothing's changed.
No, you're right. You're right. So on the 14th of July, SAG-AFTRA, which is the Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of TV and Radio Artists, went on strike. Similar to the WGA, the previous agreement ran out. And they'd also issued their statement saying it was around economic fairness, residuals, regulating the use of AI, and alleviating the burdens of the industry-wide shift to self-taping. Also citing how actors' salaries are often cut to pad corporate profits. We're not talking about Dwayne Johnson's next disappointment of a film that he's getting $50 million for. This is jobbing actors. These are the people on the ground who are doing the job, having to take second or third jobs in bars just to be able to pay rent here. Both David Denman of the American Office show and Sean Gunn, James's brother, who had a role in Gilmore Girls, both have recently spoke out saying that both of their shows were touted as the largest viewed shows on Netflix around the world. Like, I watch the American Office on Netflix. My other half constantly rewatches Gilmore Girls. It's like her comfort show.
Oh God, Sam's not the only one.
I think every woman loves it. I've never been able. I watched like 5 minutes of it, and it gave me anxiety the way they were talking. It was awful.
It's like wrestling for them. That's what it is.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Stu. Yeah, but yeah, these are the biggest shows streaming on Netflix, and neither of those have had any money off those products since it's been sold onto Netflix. It's lined the pockets of Netflix, NBC, and the Warner Brothers execs, because they're the ones who sold the rights to the show, and obviously Netflix are the ones showing it. But the people who were instrumental in creating the show, fuck all. They got their original check when they started, and they've had nothing since. They might get a few pennies every time a DVD gets sold, but in the world of streaming, why do people buy DVDs? They generally don't, unless it's Stu Hall, of course.
No. Scott buys DVDs because he's a weirdo.
That's right. Yeah,
I ain't lowering my definition for anyone.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I'm not sure if I agree, Andy. If I'm honest, man makes a bag of crisps and sells that bag of crisps to a distribution company. Should man earn money when Asda sell it and someone eats it? No, they were contracted to make the crisps. And whatever is done with it once it's been made and they've been paid for is immaterial, isn't it?
But
that's
look at it like this: if that man makes that one bag of crisps, and then his boss sells that bag of crisps to Asda sell it for whatever reason, they manage to sell 20 copies of it.
Mm-hmm.
His boss gets paid 20 times the money. He gets fuck all still. He's still the one who made it. He's still the one whose product is there at the end of it. The thing with crisps is obviously it's just one and gone.
I wish it wasn't.
With something like The Office, it's there in perpetuity. It's always there, and it's always David Denman, for example, who is playing that role in that show.
I think it's a bit because it used to work perfectly fine with syndication. They used to get paid for syndication, I think.
Yes, they still do. So if something gets syndicated on television, they will still get residuals. So if you look at the cast of Friends, they never have to work again purely from the syndication of their shows. They will still get money, but they won't get paid anything for the show once it went to Netflix. they may have renegotiated their contract because they're a very big name group, but your lower actors like Janice isn't getting a cut of the streams on Netflix of Friends. But the studio execs, they're making money hand over fist by constantly just reselling somebody else's work. It's effectively NFTs to me. Like, it's sort of nothing. Like, there's no
Well,
physical
yeah,
thing there, but you're reselling it.
I get it, but it's their right to do so because they've bought it.
Does that mean
It's
it's
their
right?
right. It's their right to do it because they've purchased a product. Like it's the equivalent of someone buying a house and then renting it out. It's their right to do so. They've paid it, and someone has accepted a fee for it and have agreed it at that moment in time. The writers and everybody should demand a fairer wage at the start of the process.
And that's
Completely
what they're
agree.
doing now.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing now.
Which I completely agree with. But I think when that they're more than happy enough to cash the check in at the start of the process.
Yeah, but I think that's the problem, though. When they did cash the check in, this didn't exist.
That's fair.
Goalposts have moved,
Yeah,
haven't
that's
they?
fair. That's fair.
Yeah. So we've had someone go, Kamiko Glenn, who she posted a video in 2020 during the lockdown. So obviously a lot of actors just weren't able to work. And she was in Orange is the New Black. She starred in 44 of the 90 episodes. I've not seen it, but she shared how much money she earned in the 12 months following the end of the show. So this show ended in 2019, and this was towards the end of the lockdowns. So Orange is the New Black was like Stranger Things of its time. It was huge. It was something that Netflix really harps on about. And she showed that she earned $27 for however many times that show was streamed. The numbers for that would have been ridiculous, and all she earned was $27. She actually lost money while she was making the show because she had to travel to and from her house to get there and all that. She made a bit of money at the end of it, and then the residuals are just next to nothing, and that's a contract with the streamers. So they say that a rising tide lifts all boats, but it only appears like it's the super yachts which are getting lifted, and as Stu said earlier, the plankton just get drowned out. So I don't know, and it just feels a bit more galling when year on year our subscriptions go up. It's £1 every single year. It was like £8 when we signed up, and then it was £9 a year, and now all of a sudden it's what? How much is it for Netflix? Like what, 13, 14 quid? Something ridiculous for the mid tier one. All that money's just going to line the pockets of those at the top, not the people who are actually giving us what we want to see. Matt, how do you feel about it? I mean, I'm not going to say because you're a vegetarian, I expect you to have higher morals. But
I guess as a card-carrying union member, in my job and everything like that, I feel there's if enough people band together and demand change, like the strikes, I'm totally on board with the strikes and getting a fairer like wage at the start of the process. But at the same time, like it's easy for me to say this if I'm not getting paid and I'm worrying about where my next rent check's coming from. But like, if these shows are being played over and over and over and they're gaining captive audiences, are people not getting work because they're being constantly seen and things like that? I mean, surely there's an element of if it's the other side where things are being dropped, like you've mentioned before with Disney, and they're cancelling lots of things in order to facilitate these kind of things, then it becomes really difficult because people aren't committing to work, and then it's not getting out there, and then they're committing their time and their energy, and there's only so many hours in the day for people to make content, and it's not going to see the light of day. Then it's a very different conversation. I think just people need to, like, the industry's not going to change in the favor of the grunts, is it? Let's be brutally honest.
No.
So it's about kind of making the changes that can be made. It's not very Che Guevara of me, this, but if they can agree more money for their start process and get paid at source, as opposed to having to rely on absolute nibbles of a huge fucking pie, then I think it would be beneficial for people in that profession to do so, because why would think of it from from like Warner Brothers side of things? Why would they want to make any less money? It's just not going to happen, is it? Like meaningful change in that respect.
Well, they won't. They don't want to make less money, but if they don't have anyone to do the work, then they will. They're going to be
There'll
screwed.
always be
And
someone. Though. There'll always be someone.
that's
There'll always be someone willing to walk through the picket line.
Yeah, so there's going to be some scab, isn't there?
I mean, this one doesn't seem like it's a scab-free zone because what happens when with this? They'll just be blacklisted. Like what happened to our good old Brendan Fraser for absolutely no fault of his own. They did it to him. If someone breaks rank and goes against it for this, they ain't working again. They'll be screwed. So I think this time, I think they. The problem is, I don't think it's going to happen. It's not going to be retrospectively. They're not going to go back and give them all money.
No, I don't think they will either. No,
It's too complicated. But I think going forward, they're going to have to, and it's just the right thing to do. It doesn't even have to be. It could be $27. It could be a percentage of the fee that they got paid per million views or something like that. So just something like that. It doesn't seem that difficult. But then, and fair play to them. Strike as long as you need. We can wait another year for Last of Us Series 2. It's the way it is. But like we said earlier, the contracts didn't foresee this environment, so I don't think you can go back. You might get like a one-time payout for everyone, every SAG-AFTRA member, from somewhere as like a goodwill gesture, and then say, okay, from now on, here we go, from project starting in 2023, 24, whatever. I think that's probably the likely outcome of this. But yeah, fair play to them. Keep it going.
The final pretty big issue is the use of AI in acting. The AMPTP had tried to get SAG to sign off on the use of AI to cast actors to reduce costs to filmmakers. They would get background artists to be paid for one day's work. They would scan them into the system and then use AI software to replicate them on screen to do with them as they wish. Like, we've seen films where dead bodies have been brought back to life, octogenarians playing 30-something-year-old versions of themselves. But this isn't Stan Lee's family begging for their father to be in another film for 2 seconds, is it? Like, would a young Thomas Mapother IV get the chance to become Tom Cruise if studios could just keep having Mel Gibson play Ethan Hunt, for example, in the 90s? And you could have had Mission Impossible with Mel Gibson, a 20-year-old Mel Gibson, today still. There's no need for a Tom Cruise at that point. So I think this feels really disgusting, the fact that they can and want to use computer-generated versions of people just to keep them coming back when there are actors out there who are not getting opportunities that they should. Matt, what do you think on this?
Well, the tide's turning in Hollywood. Whether Stu is very much on the nose. There are still things that people want to see: Top Gun, Avatar, Mission Impossible. So there are still the big Hollywood blockbusters, but they are getting few and far between. If you like things that you assume are going to be huge, just aren't hitting the spot, and people are just tired of reboot being drawn out over and over and over. And I think that little studios making indie films aren't going to be able to do AI and everything else, are they? They ain't going to have the costs of the facilities. So actually, if you want to allow those huge franchises to make and use AI and everything else, that's fine. The indie world will primarily be untouched, but in terms of if you're taking work out of of actors, if you're taking the livelihood away from them in that respect, then yeah, it's going to be suffocating the industry of talent. But I can't see do people, would anybody, okay, like pick an actor now that's Jason Momoa, right? I know he's gone down off a bit of a cliff in recent. Remember he was in his pomp about 5 years ago or whatever. Are people going to want Jason Momoa in 40, 50, 60 years time when the real Jason Momoa might be dead or like in a wheelchair or something. Surely there's like, you've still got to do your press tours. You've still got to be a public figure. You've still got to have a scandal that people talk about. Do you know what I mean? Like, there always has to be a human story behind it. Is like people go and see Keanu Reeves films, right? Not because of Keanu Reeves, the actor, the roles. They go a lot of times because he's just a nice bloke. It seems everybody loves him.
Yeah.
Would everybody love the AI version of Keanu Reeves? No. Would people like the one who, or the fucking guy who plays Superman, whatever his name is, like the fact that he's into World of Warcraft and all of that kind of stuff? I don't think like it would be sustainable to have that AI like for half a century because people want the human story for actors as well.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Stu, what are your thoughts on this one?
I think for like Rogue One made sense because he was dead and they needed to bring him back. So the talking thing was fine. It doesn't look very good now, even just a few short years afterwards. Again, compared to how we've seen young Harrison Ford look like young Harrison Ford, didn't sound like him or move like him, obviously. That was a mistake. But like what they did with Luke in Mandalorian, they could have easily just got away with using the guy who was the body double anyway, who looks like him, which I feel sorry. I don't know who that guy is. He's just Mark Hamill's literal body double that they put his face over. So if things like that, it makes some kind of weird sense, I suppose. But yeah, I agree completely. I don't see. You'll get one or two maybe, like who'll have it in their will that they're going to do a performance from beyond the grave, which you'd see out of curiosity, wouldn't you, just to see? But again, it's not going to be them, and it's what I said a bit earlier, where you go from wanting crafted stuff that's made properly the old way, like doing with Christopher Nolan, head screwed on way, or new sparkly fangled nonsense that no one really cares about, and it'll age badly straight away. So you already seen it. Look at Shazam 2. Shit. Look at the numbers for The Flash. People didn't want it. Look what's going to happen to Blue Beetle. Again, terrible. Indiana Jones, good film. People don't watch it. It's not a big thing anymore. It was 20, 30 years ago, not now. So I think people are just reacting now. I think, well, now we have had enough of this stuff. And you look at I know we'll get onto it after, but you look at how packed both screenings of Barbie and Oppenheimer were on Friday.
Yeah.
There's your audience. You make something good both times that people want to go and see, they'll go and see.
Yeah, I agree with you. Right, so that's the news and hot take corner, really. I think we've sort of melded it into one for this week. Matthew, have we had any listener questions?
We've had a couple. One of the pitfalls of Twitter, and I've felt it myself in the past, is that I've come to miss stuff because you're just constantly, like, if you're not glued to the app, you can miss things. So, friend of the show and one of the OGs, really, because I think he's one of these like organic. What word did he use? Osmosis is the word he used when he cut to us through the lesser known Wolves Fancast. Is Andrew Wright. So he wanted a few questions thrown in lieu, basically. So question number 1: can it outrun the Flash, Stu?
He could do whatever he wants. So yeah.
Andy, do you agree?
Yeah, I think so, because without getting too nerdy, he's the deadlights, isn't he? So if he can move as fast as light, Flash can't outrun light, can he? So I think technically he could as well.
Is Flash afraid of being outrun, I suppose, is the question, or being caught? I don't know.
We'll never know, will we? Because
the actor maybe. But,
that's done and dusted now.
Can Superman outrun the Flash? Didn't we find this out? Wasn't that a post?
Flash is quicker than Superman. They've had several races in the comics.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
And whom of the three of us would die first in a slasher movie?
I mean, I hate to say it, but it's definitely Stu, because Stu would deny that it's happening. It's a fucking conspiracy, and then he'd be offed immediately.
Yeah, that's true. I always said that if I was in a like zombie film, I'd be doing a what the fuck was his name? Rick's uh, mate. Oh God, Carl. No, not Carl. What the fuck was the guy's name? The guy who played Punisher. Um,
Oh, John Bernthal.
yes, he shoots that guy, doesn't he, in the leg?
Yes.
Pow! And then like I'd be that guy basically. I'd like. So I think in the slasher film, I'd be the one who tries to like weasel out of it and end up being the one succumbing to my own wickedness. I think so. Yeah, but yeah, Stu, you'd be blissfully unaware of what was going on, and then be struck down by a rogue murderer. And then Matt Cunnington has given us a question as well. Let me go through the murky world. Oh, it's not Twitter anymore, is it? Or it won't be.
Yes, changing.
X.
What a shit fucking name.
And like all of my exes, I want nothing to do with this. Given your discussions of cinema etiquette and cinema's inability or unwillingness to deal with it, would you go for some form of premium cinema membership with members-only showings?
Well, we have this anyway, but they're still acting like bellends.
Yeah, I was thinking about this when I read this question. I thought to myself, money doesn't mean someone's not a bellend. Quite the opposite in a lot of senses of the word. So
I think what if you had something where, because people can't behave and they've had plenty of time to learn, and if it's proved that they can't behave, and you have to, like when you go to Ninja Warrior, they give you get a little locker and you get a little wristband, and you put all your stuff in the locker at the start of the film, and then you go and sit there and you behave yourself, and you go and get your stuff out your locker later. There you go.
How you're even saying the sentence like you're talking to a child.
Yeah, because these people are fucking idiots.
Yeah.
They don't understand. They don't care. So if they have to be treated like children, and you have to have some kind of cinema police on the door, showing them here's your locker key, sir. Please put it here. Then they have to be told, don't they? I mean, thankfully, Curse of Andy doesn't apply to me, and when I'm with him, it seems to counteract it, and I never get these issues.
Yeah, it does.
But there's too many, and if you have to look at your phone after 20 minutes, and you got a problem, then don't go out. Just put it in a box, put it in a locker on the side. You haven't got to pay. Get your little wristband, go and get it at the end. There you go.
What if I could offer you? You know how sometimes you'll see an old person on the mobility scooter in like a mini Pope mobile, like they've got like the Perspex like little box that they have.
Yeah.
If I was to offer you like a Perspex box that had speakers built in, but you could see the screen completely in front of you, but you were kind of in a little box at the cinema, would you take it?
I'd put them in it.
That's the dream, to be honest. Like I don't go to the cinema for the experience, sharing it with other people. I go because I want to see the latest film. So I'd quite happily sit on. I mean, I generally go on my own anyway when I go to the cinema, so I'd be perfectly fine with that.
It'd have to be Perspex like all the way around though, because I think that the likelihood of somebody having a wank would go up like tenfold if they were in like a private screened booth. When I was with you watching that film the other day, like there was a couple like a few rows up. Firstly, they had their shoes off.
Oh, it's disgusting, wasn't it?
With their bare feet out, not even socks, which was disgusting. Secondly, they brought like all of their earthly possessions with them, and like had to kind of like stumble
over them. Yeah.
And thirdly, midway through the film, he turned like a complete 45 degrees and was like staring at his missus. This guy, like I don't know if it was like meant to be an intimate thing, but it was like psychopath behaviour. But it was turning facing my direction, my eye line, and I was just like, this is the weirdest thing ever.
They were bizarre. Yeah.
Anyway, those are the questions for this week. Thank you everybody for getting in touch.
Super. Thank you very much, Matt. We're staying with you for the non-film question this week, please.
Right, so gaming, big part of my life, and going to France, got to experience the Normandy side of things, as I said, very surreal, got to be on the beaches of Omaha Beach, and I had a real hankering to play um, some form of World War II shooter, first-person shooter. Watched Band of Brothers since I've come home from thing, that was great, absolutely loved it, always loved it. Even though it's 20 years old, it really doesn't feel it, like, it's just superb. Um, but I was playing Call of Duty World War Two, and I was like playing it, and then I was like, "This isn't like it at all." I don't like. I had only played the game once. I only played the first mission and gave up on it when I bought it, like 2017 or whatever it was at. And I thought, "There's no accuracy to this game at all." And then I thought to myself, "Does gaming have a responsibility to stick to historical accuracy, or as gaming is meant to be something as a release from the norm and release from your day to day, should we not worry about historical accuracy when it comes to gaming, Andy?"
It's a good question. Because I think I've criticised so many movies for not being historically accurate enough. And I understand that art, you have to take some liberties with it, but it's where's the line? I think like the bare minimum they can do in something like that is get the geography right. To be perfectly honest,
Mm-hmm.
that's the bare minimum that they should be doing because the events that happened, you weren't there. You can't say for 100% certainty whether that's how accurate it is in those terms. But if somehow the beach is on the east coast, but in the real world it's on the west, stuff like that is really silly and really easy to control. So it should be held to a good standard that it should at least look right, even if the story plays out slightly differently to how you expect it. So, like with the Spider-Man game, for example, when I got back from New York last year, I just wanted to go on play on Spider-Man and just walk the streets of Manhattan because it was laid out like Manhattan. It looked like it. The game sort of felt like it as well. Everything about it was right, and I feel that that accuracy needs to be there. Even if the story's different, you need to be immersed in that world. And if that world doesn't match what is actually there, then it's something completely different.
Mm-hmm. Good
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with that. The geography thing doesn't make any sense, and I know talking about Spider-Man, that fact that the One World Trade Center or wherever Freedom Tower, wherever its real name is not in that game because it's licensed individually itself is mad.
Mm.
But I wonder if there is a licensing thing with Normandy because it was pinpoint accurate in Medal of Honor years ago on PS1 and PC, I think, but it was a long, long time ago. So maybe something to do with that. But yeah, if it's awkward because you don't want to be too real because then it's like kind of horror porn again.
Mm.
And I was just looking up, and it has been greenlit now. There is a game called 6 Days in Fallujah, which is a tactical first-person game set in the Second Battle of Fallujah in the Iraq War, a span of 6 days in November 2004.
God.
But it's America and Iraqis, but I think it's both sides for the first time. So you're going to see the other side of things, which is why it's so controversial. It's still not out. But for something like that, where they are being they're going on eyewitness accounts. Does people really want this? It doesn't seem very. And like again, the Light in the Darkness, which I mentioned before, that game that only takes an hour and a half. That is a true to life incidents in France in the Holocaust. And yeah, it's great as an educational piece, but it's not very entertaining. I think Call of Duty is entertainment first. So as long as they've got the vibe, I suppose you kind of take it with a pinch of salt. Like it's not like U571, which is just wrong. Like nothing, it's factually wrong. Whereas then you got things like Dunkirk, which is a fictional story, but it's based on true events and things that did happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like it does. So I think as long as you get the feel and you're respectful, I think that's kind of where you have to land with these things now, rather than just it's basically the same.
That Fallujah game just sounds a little bit too misery porn, I think might be the term. Like that's so fucking recent that I don't know. I don't like the sound of that at all.
You say that it was 20 years ago.
But I mean, even so, like there are people that is still within, I would say, 80% of people alive today's memory. It's still recent enough that we will know about it. It's not talking about something 70 years ago or even more. That just feels like, yeah, I don't like that. What did you think to it then, Matt? Where did you fall on it?
I don't know, because I just felt like, so I was playing this this World War II game, and I was shot to shit about 20 times and didn't die. And I'm powering fucking through, and I'm storming bunkers on my own, and I'm blowing people up, and I'm this and I'm that, and like, I don't know, it felt really disrespectful. Like, I can't put my finger on it. Like, I went to the American cemetery and I went to the British cemetery, and the sheer weight of the event, and went to the museums and stuff, and I just like, it's really like, it's not affected my mental health or anything, but it's really given me an understanding of a real appreciation of just how fucking mental it all was. And I was thinking, like, right, let's pretend I'm even 10 years younger wouldn't be enough. Let's say I'm 13 years younger than I am now, and I've never been abroad, much less gone to another continent, and someone's plucked me out, sent me to a continent that I've got no hope of ever going to, because it's not like travel now, you can get on a Ryanair flight. It's like the equivalent of us going to the moon to fight, where we've never been before.
Yeah.
And then in 80 years' time, some fucking chubby, bald, overweight, bearded guy is running through where my brothers have died. It's just the weirdest thing. Like, I don't know. It's just,
I get it.
It's affected me in a weird way playing the game. I was like, this is like, it doesn't. Basically, the game didn't give me the sense of it didn't give enough weight to the importance of the event. It felt like, as soon as I saw that fucking Activision or Blizzard or whoever it is, the Treyarch or whoever it is that came up, it just instantly felt like morally wrong. And I can't believe I'm saying this. I sound like I'm in my 50s. It just felt weird. Like, I can't explain it. Like, it felt exploitative. And so, like, I don't know if historical accuracy really affects it or not, I guess. But, like, yeah, it was just
it kind of feels like when you see people taking selfies at Auschwitz and that kind of, like, there's a level of respect that it's kind of trampling over, maybe.
But at the same time, like, some people might not know about these things at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Until they've played this and then want to gain an interest and learn and everything else. So I do get it, but just my personal experience with it made me kind of feel a bit uneasy, and that's why the question came to my head, really, to ask.
Yeah, that was my my granddad's point of view when he was here, not now. But when he when Medal of Honor came out at the time, and I showed him, and obviously it was PS1 graphics or whatever, and he was like, well, the weapons look quite real. They did move like that and all these kind of things, and it's good because you are learning these things. And so he was more of that kind of persuasion than rah, it's bad. But again, I've never been there. I've never been to that place. Obviously, because it's in France, which is a problem. But I probably would be. I know that it would affect me because of what Band of Brothers did to me, and what Oppenheimer did to me the other day, and all these kind of things, and Dunkirk and all this stuff. So I get it. I mean, I don't play Call of Duty, so I wouldn't know, and it's been a long time since I played Medal when I was a kid. So yeah, I think you can have both opinions at the same time with this one.
That's fair. Right, moving on. What are you watching at the moment, Matt? Cinema, TV, anything good lately?
So, watched No Hard Feelings, Jennifer Lawrence, and yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. Will I watch it again the remainder of this decade? Probably not. But for the 90 minutes, it was absolutely fine. Got a few laughs out of it. was just fine. It was good. I'd recommend it, to someone to maybe watch with a couple or something like that. Or not watch with a couple. We're not doing an upside down pineapple thing. I mean, watch it as a couple. Yeah, it was.
Perfect Netflix film, isn't it?
Yeah. It's nothing like special. Won't mop up awards wise, but it was great for what it was. And I've started Succession now. Finally, I'm 5 episodes in, or I'm midway through watching the 5th episode before we had to record this. And it's starting to take shape now. Like you said, Andy, like the first few episodes are maybe setting the scene a little, but it's starting to, like, the intrigue's coming in, the backstabbing starting. I can see why it's so highly raved about this. Would it get into the echelons of Band of Brothers, Breaking Bad, Sopranos for me, like that top tier TV? I'm not sure, but for the time being, it's thoroughly enjoyable. So I'm looking forward to carrying on with that.
Yeah, like I recently finished Succession. I think it's an A. I don't think it's an A plus. Maybe time will tell with it because it's so recently finished. Maybe in a year or two's time, but it's up there. I just don't know if it's Breaking Bad up there.
I had it. So the first half of the final season, I was telling people it was up there with Breaking Bad, and I think it didn't keep to that level quite as much as it could have done. It could be in the conversation. I don't think overall at the end it wasn't as good as Breaking Bad was for me. But it's, if you talk about top 5, it's in it easily.
Yeah. Like I say, it's up there. Matt, do you see the peep show of it all? I know it's still very early days, but you can tell there's the writers of Peep Show have had their hand in it.
It's funny because Sam has watched enough Arrested Development through me to see that side of it. Like, she was like, it's just like Arrested Development, that show that you like.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of the comic timing is just perfect. Like, and the awkwardness that it feels British, or it feels English, and it's like,
yeah,
the awkwardness in the silences and stuff like that, and the way that some of the characters bounce off each other. Yeah, I can see that influence in it. I didn't expect it to be as funny as it is, and I saw someone describe it as like a dark comedy almost. And I wasn't expecting it to be funny, but it is. But I don't know if it's funny just because of the way the characters are written, and as opposed to it being an actual comedy itself. But either way, it's very entertaining.
Oh no, it was billed as a dark comedy from the very start. It was just, it seemed to get that kind of get swept under the carpet because of some of the things that happen, and it's like it's in a world of its own. And the reason that it feels British is because half the cast is British, and they get it.
Helps,
yeah.
But yeah, I can't wait for you to get to the bachelor party episode. That was my favourite one.
It's next.
I thought it was the 8th one, not the 6th one. But it's coming up. Yeah, I think you'll really like that one, Matt.
So before I switched off, they were just going through the prenup stuff, which proper made me laugh. Like, his mum's the lawyer, and they were just talking about like the prenup, and then cousin Greg's shredding / copying the evidence. It's just brilliant.
Yeah, it's superb. Stu, what are you watching at the minute?
I'll leave them two for now because we'll talk about it in a minute. I watched Quarterback on Netflix, the latest one of the Sports with a Heart series, I suppose you can call them, after Drive to Survive and the golf one. I don't know how well this one will work for people who don't like NFL because it's not explained at all what the hell's going on. You know how with the others, it's kind of dumbed down, and you do get Peyton Manning at the start talking about, yes, these are what the quarterback is, and I thought, oh well, they're going to explain it in a brief kind of way, and I suppose you can kind of pick it up as you go along, what the throws and the plays and that kind of thing. But it was really, really fascinating for someone who loves the sport anyway. It was really fascinating to get to see behind the curtain a bit more than you do on the ESPN stuff and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's just really good. Really, there is the human aspect of it as well, and there's a couple
Yeah.
of people who don't come out of it very well, and one in particular is fucking annoying as anything. But yeah, the three guys, Patrick Mahomes, considering how wealthy he is and how important he is, seems remarkably normal, which I didn't expect to see. But yeah, I really enjoyed that one. So finish that off. I've got a few left on Manifest, so I'll leave that for now. I finally caught up with Secret Invasion. Enjoyable. Leave it at that. Enjoyable. It's not as bad as some of the others have been. It's not. It's not. I mean, I love Hawkeye, but that's the Christmas thing as well. I don't think it's as good as Hawkeye, but when we said, "Oh yeah, they're time fillers," it's a bit more than time filler. I do kind of look forward to it being on a Wednesday for it to come round. It's been all right, and obviously your mate is in it, and she's not annoying in this one yet.
Oh god, yeah. That's one of the main reasons I've not bothered, to be honest.
Yeah, but the dodgy effects plague is all over now. It's all back to how it used to be, so that's nice. And the other one, Walking Dead Dead City, which I didn't have any high hopes for whatsoever, other than the fact that it was more Negan. And you can never say no to more Negan. But them two together, it just works. And it's like The Walking Dead used to be. It's kind of scary, and the walkers are not just cannon fodder like they turned into in the show in the 15th year. Oh, well, yeah, there's one there. We're just going to go and just deal with it like a fly. They're actually a real threat because there's so many of them in a new setting of New York, and it actually works really well. And it's a bit of a breath of stale air in in that universe. And the Rick one, I don't know. I'll obviously give it a go. I'm not watching the trailer, obviously, but I've been remarkably impressed with this, and I think you'll quite like it as well. To be fair, because it is like it used to be.
Oh, good. Yeah, I've got them all ready to watch. Just haven't found time to fit them in. Still haven't caught up on Superman and Lois, so I need to finish that first before Walking Dead. So I've watched Colin from Accounts on BBC iPlayer. It was recommended to us on Twitter, and I thought I'll give it a go. Just as 6 half-hour episodes of comedy. And it was really sweet. It was a really nice little Australian comedy that starts off with a woman flashing a tit at a guy in a car. He then hits a dog whilst he's driving, and they then take that dog to the vets to try and get him better. The vet is his ex-girlfriend, who he was a bit of a twat to, and comedy ensues from there with these two people. And it had a lot of heart to it. It was really funny in parts. Yeah, properly enjoyed it. I would thoroughly recommend that one. It's currently sitting at an 8.2 on IMDb, so it is very much liked by pretty much everyone who's seen it, I think.
Who's in it?
Absolutely nobody. It's Patrick Brammell, Harriet Dyer, someone called Zach. Like, there's no named people in it. I didn't recognise a single soul. But it was great. I really, really enjoyed it. And I think it helped not knowing anybody, because you don't go in with any preconceptions about what it's going to be like. It was fantastic. But yeah, iPlayer, worth your while on a lazy weekend if you've got a few hours to kill.
Have either of you two watched The Bear?
Yes. No. Well, I've seen the first season. I haven't watched the second one yet.
I only watched a couple of episodes of the first season. I don't know why I stopped it, because I really enjoyed it, but I just realised it's back now, and so I need to try and catch up with it as soon as I can.
I feel like that's going to be the next Succession, where I want to see it, and then I'll probably end up waiting 5 years before I get round to it.
They're running like half-hour episodes.
Oh, are they? I thought they were full-on hour episodes.
No.
Oh, that's not too bad then. Oh, that makes it a lot easier then, to be fair. Asteroid City, after really hoping for it to come to the cinema, didn't really hit the spot for me, if I'm perfectly honest. It was a bit too Wes Anderson. And a film called The Blackening, which isn't out at the cinema in the UK yet, but it was out in the cinema in the US months ago, so it's now available to stream if you know where to look. So they've done fucked up. the tagline of this film is "We can't all die first" because it is a predominantly black cast movie. So obviously they're playing on the stereotypes of black people within the horror genre, and it's fantastic. I really had a couple of belly laughs in parts, and a couple of parts where I did jump because it was kind of scary, and I didn't see the twist coming at all. Wasn't what I expected. It was great. Stu, I think it'd be very much up your street, the silly comedy horrorness of it all. But yeah,
I was talking about. I forgot. I got it right down there. I thought I'd watched this film last year on Netflix, Fall, about
right,
the TV tower
yeah,
thing, and I thought I'll give it because I started watching Deep Blue Sea, but it kept buffering. I thought, oh no, can't be doing with this. So I thought I'll turn it off, and we just went on Netflix, and it was there. And I thought, oh, go on then, and some base climbers were whatever they're called, free climbers, climbing at a disused radio TV tower in the middle of the American desert that's 2,000 foot in the air, and then the ladder breaks and they're stranded up the top. It's it's very, very clever with the drone stuff and the fisheye lenses, and vertigo inducing is the word. I mean, I don't even have vertigo. I put the Christmas lights up outside, don't care. Sitting there on the sofa, I felt a bit woozy. It was really, really, really effective. And Tara said that she watched it at the that horror fest thing that they go to every year on the big screen, and it got the same reaction. It was, I think you'd probably like it more than Matt would, obviously, but it's relatively cheap-ish horror with people who you've never seen in anything before.
okay.
Other than Jeffrey Dean Morgan, weirdly enough, very briefly. But yeah, it was very good. It's on Netflix. Fall.
Okay, cool. Added that to the list. And obviously the other two, the Barbenheimer of it all. Matt, did you get around to seeing Oppenheimer?
No. So when this comes out, it will be my birthday, and I said to Sam, what should we do tomorrow? And she's like, it's your birthday. You do what you like. And I'm not gonna make us suffer through Oppenheimer, but I think I'm gonna go watch Barbie tomorrow or today. Quotation marks. I'll go see Oppenheimer at some point this upcoming week. Really looking forward to it. Like, I don't want to see any more of it. I might have to mute it on X or whatever the fuck it's called, because I'm like, I just want to see it as pure as possible without seeing any footage. So yeah, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, excellent. It's 5 stars. It's up there for Nolan. Obviously, recency bias plays a part in it, but I think you could quite easily make an argument for it being his best work. And weirdly, probably his most personal, maybe, for a film which isn't about him. It's about, obviously, J. Robert Oppenheimer. It felt like it was actually something that I feel like there's a lot of his politics and stuff included in this film. So I think it was something that was a reflection of himself on screen within the character. That it was superb. The cinematography was next level. There's one scene which puts Uncut Gems to shame for how much anxiety I felt at one point. It was absolutely, it was like horror levels of anxiety inducing. It was superb on so many levels. I really, really enjoyed it. It was 3 hours, and it was completely time well spent with 3 hours.
Yeah.
It was as close to perfect as I've seen in quite some time. It's going to take something incredible to not be my favourite film of the year, I think, this one.
Yeah, when we were kind of championing and kind of personally affected by wanting Pig to win everything, I'll be very pissed off if this doesn't win all 12 of what Variety said that it could win. Because, I mean, giving it a couple of days in, I mean, I came out and thinking what Matt being a renegade and saying that he was going to watch it the other way around and watch Barbie second, which is he's now going to admit to the classroom that he's never going to watch Barbie because he's a square. That I walked out of that cinema and I was close to tears, and I don't know why. I was just affected by how amazing it was, and I couldn't imagine watching anything else at all. And I got home, and I even thought I need to go to the pub and drink, um, and then I didn't even do that. I just got on the bus, went home, and just sat there. And then I read stuff about the whole thing, which is very, very accurate as well, like we were talking earlier. And I was trying to describe it the next day without saying anything at all about spoilers and whatever. And I said, well, when you ask the usual question, oh, what's the best film ever made? And you get the usual answers and Schindler's List. And this is in that category for me, easily now. It's one of the best. I know we said about Joe and how much I enjoyed that. And if this was 10 years ago, would I enjoy that as much? Probably not. But now, with a fully matured, grown brain, but you know what I mean, it was a masterpiece, an absolute masterpiece. And there was not one bad performance by anyone. And nothing about it was bad. You couldn't pick fault at anything. Even the length of it, it felt like a long, hard 3 hours. And good, because that was the point.
It needed to be. Couldn't have done it in 2 hours 10. Like, it wouldn't have worked.
And that scene, I don't have anxiety of any kind, thankfully. I felt my chest, and if it was the Dolby Atmos, I don't know, whatever it was, I felt my chest tightening up at it. It was incredible. And it's amazing that now, when this comes out, you can't go and watch it on super screen now in Wolverhampton because Barbie's took you for 4 times a day for the next week. But if you got the chance to watch it in super screen or IMAX or whatever's the biggest format near you, go and watch it in that, because it's just superb. And very, very rarely will I say something's 10 out of 10 and perfect, but this is. And I ain't having saying anything otherwise in months then. I say, we were recency bias, because this one is not at all. We can have a laugh and a joke about how good Far From Home was and whatever, but this is one of the best films ever made. It just fucking is. Just go and watch it.
Yeah, outstanding. I know, like we spoke before about saying we should do Oppenheimer first and then Barbie.
No,
you want
absolutely
not. But in retrospect, I wouldn't have wanted to sit through a film having watched Oppenheimer. I just wanted to sit and bask in its glory almost for a while. It felt weighty in a way that cinema generally hasn't felt for quite some time. Yeah, I loved it. So you might be going to see Barbie tomorrow. I do genuinely think, I know you put in the group chat taking the piss saying it's about a toy and it's a kid's film. I mean, it's a 12A, so it's not really a kid's film as such. I think you'll get a lot out of it, to be honest, Matt, knowing that, like, you're a bit like me in some respects of you like things that have got layers to it. And this one really does. I was expecting it to be light and silly and throwaway, and it ended up coming out the other side of it with a bit of a renewed sense of purpose with the world, that actually we should be doing a little bit better than we are. And that's not what I expected to get from Barbie at all.
I mean, that speech, I was tempted to channel my inner Texan girl and whoop and holler, because it was amazing. And there was people say amen and whatever, and that we've seen on Twitter, X, sorry, and whatever. But that part was amazing, and it's got no right being amazing in Barbie, which is a fucking stupid film. More enjoyable than Oppenheimer, obviously, because unless you're dead inside, which you used to be, I don't think you would have enjoyed this before you met me. But it's just so fun. And the fact that we've both spent 60 quid today on fluffy pre-orders of hoodies, so I am kin off, says everything you need to know, because it's just a wonderful, happy experience.
Yeah. I can't put it any better than that. I welled up 3 times. I thought I was going to cry. It was just brilliant.
And that was just the fact that you realised that everyone in there was significantly younger than you.
Oh, massively, and all female as well.
Yeah. There was a couple who I had to sit on it because I had to change it at the last minute because of stupid children forgetting the PE kit that I had to go and leg it home to then go and take and then get. So thankfully, Girls Cineworld app lets you cancel for nothing. So that's a good plus point for them. But yeah, I turned up and I had the aisle seat and I thought I couldn't get middle, but I thought, whatever, it has to be done. And then there was a couple, I mean, they must have been mid-20s. These girls sat next to me. I thought, yeah, whatever, I don't care about this, but I know full well that they're going to be talking about the unshaven, strange 40-plus-year-old man that I looked at that time, sitting there in a Pringles Umbro T-shirt and work shorts, watching Barbie in the middle of the day.
But yeah, I felt like everyone was just embracing everyone at the end of it. It was lovely. Right, okay. Moving on. Our individual questions. Stu, you're up first, please, sir.
Yeah, so I think this was inspired by Oppenheimer because if Cage was in this somehow, you say, would you recommend it to people? And I don't think you can recommend it. I can say that I'd want everyone to see this, and it's important that they do. But I really don't think they can, because you have to have a certain kind of mindset for this. And I've spoken to a couple of friends of the show, and especially people with issues with concentration, and there's no way you can watch this. It's just not possible, because it is a hard slog. And if you're stupid enough to get your phone out and you miss something, then that's on you, because you have to be 100% concentration at all times. You can't go in tired. And there was one guy who was going to borderline falling asleep, and I thought, well, yeah, fair enough. It's a hard watch. So should films have some kind of difficulty rating? Not like it's a requirement, but when you pick a game up and you've got easy, normal, hard, and you kind of vary. I mean, I normally start on normal, and then kind of when it gets towards the end, and I'm getting shot to pieces because my old hands don't work any well, put it down to easy. But going into this would be under a hard sell, because it's not an easy watch. It's very difficult. It's very intense at times. It's a lot of adult, grown up words, historically accurate as well, and I just don't think it is for everyone. But because of the furore about the Barbenheimer thing, I think some people will get drawn into it, and they won't enjoy it. If they knew going in that there's a difficulty rating, maybe it'd enhance their choice a little bit. I don't know, just throwing it out there.
I don't think it's necessarily a terrible idea to know going in that. I mean, some people have said on Twitter, X, whatever you want to fucking call it now, have been saying that like there's homework to do before you see the film. I know like the bare minimum about physics from when I was at fucking school. I do not know any of the homework that's needed, and I don't think it was. But I also knew I was going into a 3-hour film that was going to be attempting to be a masterpiece. So I knew it wasn't going to be. I knew it wasn't going to be Barbie. I knew it was going to be closer to The Godfather. I knew that there was going to be work involved, so to speak. So I think knowing that does help, because if you rock up to a film with the bare minimum of knowledge to something like Oppenheimer, if you're not set to watch a 3-hour film, I've seen people talking about the stuff with ADHD, and I think that if you had that, you just wouldn't be able to get through something like Oppenheimer. You would really struggle, because I imagine that people who don't suffer with something as debilitating as concentration issues would have concentration lapse whilst watching that film. Like, I don't think it's a terrible idea to let people know, this is on the more difficult side of cinema. It's a worthy, and you will feel better at the end of having watched it. But that's not to say that it's an easy watch.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that it's. I mean, we have warnings on packets of peanuts saying this contains peanuts, for fuck's sake. So it's ain't like treating people like babies, like the locker idea. I just think it just help people. And yeah, you ain't got to pay it. No one's going to say, "Oh yes, sir, are you of sound mind to watch this? Can you factor the difficulty in?" No one's going to say that to them. It's just a guide. It's not like it's not like a IQ requirement at the gate. It's just something to say, yeah, you might want to reconsider if you're of a certain kind of mindset. I see Matt's struggling with his answer. I'm just throwing that in there.
I think it would be helpful to know what you should know before watching a film. to Andy's point. I think it would help. I don't necessarily know about a difficulty rating, but I do think that any film over 2 hours should have an intermission to go to the toilet.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to an intermission on a long film.
Or like, and I guess this would it would be completely subjective, but like if a little pop up could appear in the top corner of the screen saying you're safe to go to the toilet, not much is going to happen. Like that would really help me because I nearly pissed myself during The Last Jedi. Like I was like at my wits, like I was like any longer I'm going to piss myself, and it like ruined my experience of the film. It was horrible, and like for Oppenheimer, I will need to take a piss at some point. I've got a bladder of like a small peanut. Like I will have to go to the toilet, and like I've seen TikToks of people going during this scene. You can go to the toilet. All that's happening is he's getting his security pass or something along those lines. Like, and so I will have to run out and use the toilet, and that's not because I'm going in guzzling a huge drink and everything else. I go to the toilet a lot. I don't have diabetes, but I go to the toilet a lot. So, I wouldn't be opposed to an intermission for a film over 2 hours long.
Whenever he's talking to Einstein, is a good idea to go because
you need a solid 2 minutes, don't you, to be able to run? Yeah, I saw that TikTok when is it the first time when he initially gets to Los Alamos? I think is what they say. You could probably make a run for it then. To be fair. But I mean, there is an app as well. Is it P Run or something like that? I think it's called. But you have to press start at the start of the film, and then it vibrates in your pocket. But I don't want my phone vibrating. I put it on airplane mode because I don't want texts coming through and stuff in cinema. So for me, I wouldn't particularly like that. But I do like the idea of an intermission, watching some old-fashioned films that are like 4 hours long, and you get a 20-minute intermission in the middle. That is great. To be fair. But the problem with the difficulty rating thing, even if they did it, people wouldn't read it. That's the problem with people. Like a 12A is supposed to be a 12, unless you think your child is capable of watching this film. But do people ever go and research the film on the BBFC to make sure it's suitable for their child? No, because when I went to see The Woman in Black, there was loads of kids who were clearly there for Harry Potter and shat their pants when fucking the witch jumps out of the wardrobe and stuff. Like people don't. They just think it's an excuse. Like TV's a babysitter, so why should I have to do that work? That's the problem with it. Right, my question is up next. Mine's a two-parter. So the first part, and this is kind of inspired by the film that we went to see, No Hard Feelings. There's a scene where Jennifer Lawrence uses the word cunt. And it reminded me on Twitter a few weeks back when all of a sudden everyone in America kept using the term serving cunt. And has the Americans' acceptance of this word finally sort of ruined its impact? Matt?
Because language moves on, doesn't it, anyway? And I remember when Tom Hardy used it in Bronson, and I thought it was hilarious then. Like, it wasn't... I use the word frequently and with vigour on most days. Like, it means nothing. If I say it in front of my dad, though, and bearing in mind my dad is like ex-head doorman, seen it all. Like, he's offended by the word. Do you know what I mean? But I just think language moves on, and I think it's already lost its effect in many senses, to be honest. So I don't think it might be less cool to use it if a load of Yanks are using it now so frequently, and it's not like in a British kind of sarcastic-y type way. Like if I was to go, "Oh, Stu, nice to see you, mate. How are you? You silly cunt." Do you know what I mean? Like there's a certain air of endearment to it, or it can be. But I don't think it's like it's any less. I think it's already like sanitized now. It just might be less kind of socially cool to use it, I guess.
Stu, what do you think?
It's still kind of... I very rarely... But it's normally reserved for referees. If I'm C-bombing it out at all. That extreme level of frustration. But I don't know. Until we start seeing it more in just TV shows, that's when. So remember that when it happened on Shameless for the first time,
Mm.
and that was 20 years ago, and obviously it was after 9 o'clock, so it was fine. But it was still a bit shocking to hear it on TV. You should hear it in a few films anyway before then, but when you start hearing it in American TV properly, I think that's when it's game over.
Mm.
We have to find something else. But I don't think so, because there obviously is certain people who will never say it ever. Until that kind of changes, then I think it's still got some kind of impact. But yeah, I think it's like Matt said, it's a ever-flowing river of change, the old language. So it wouldn't surprise you if you like that. There was a word for it, that Jafaican accent in London, where you had white Cockney kids speaking like they're from Kingston Town, and with a bit of a twang. That wouldn't have happened back in the day, back in the 90s, but now you see it all the time, and it is what it is. That's the indigenous accent of certain parts of London now. So these things happen. If it can happen with accents, it's going to happen with words as well. So I think it's only a matter of time.
Okay, cool. The second part is, what is the best use of a swear word in cinema history? Stu, we'll come back to you.
The first thing I thought of was in Team America. In America, fuck yeah. And then the whole list of fuck yeahs after it, towards the end of it. Slavery, fuck yeah. I don't know why, it just came to my mind straight away. And obviously you got Pulp Fiction and all any kind of Tarantino film is going to be thrown in there. But Team America was the first that came to mind, so I'm sticking with that.
Yeah, I thought Team America at one point, to be fair. It's the most perfect summation of America, though, isn't it? Yeah. Like, it just feels so Hollywood. Like, it is perfect. Matt, what have you got?
Yeah, there was a few really that spring to mind. Obviously, you've got Shaun of the Dead, where Nick Frost says, "Can I buy or can I get any of you cunts a drink?" And says it so calmly and like so. It's just so effortlessly delivered that it's like it almost takes you by surprise that he said it when it's said. So that's up there really. But one that really, like, I don't know why it came to me the first time, is in Airplane, when the two African American guys are speaking to each other and the stewardess goes, "Oh, I speak jive," and it's like they say like "golly," and the subtitles says, or they say "shit," and the subtitles just says "golly" or something underneath it. I was like, yeah, that was pretty good. That was a pretty iconic one for me as well.
Yeah, I like that. Mine, I'm closer to Stu's answer on this one. Mine is South Park Bigger, Longer, Uncut. The first time I saw it, it was Terrence and Phillip singing Uncle Fucker. Even at 16 years old, like, I knew that word. Obviously, everyone knows the word fucker when you're preteen. But seeing that in a 15 film and them doing this entire song and dance about it, it felt like it was a changing of the guard. I feel like the use of foul and abusive language in cinema is very much split into pre-South Park and post-South Park now. I feel like you can get away with saying so much more in younger aged films than you could in the 90s. And I feel like South Park was the delineation between the two. So, yeah, for me. And I remember like the Borat scene where he's fighting with his manager and he's got his face. I think Uncle Fucker is the second most I've laughed at any film. And that scene in Borat is the first I've laughed. So, yeah, South Park was the one that sprang to my mind. And finally, Matt, we're coming to you to round it off, please.
So, quite simply, I just want to know your favourite fictional restaurant in film or TV. Stu?
So my first thought was Central Perk, but it's not really a restaurant, is it?
It probably has a hygiene rating.
Yeah.
So it's probably okay.
Well, Gunther's getting his 5-star game up. No, but my actual other than that was the one I don't remember the name of it. It's the silver like classic American diner like thing that in one of the prequels with the alien with the 6 arms.
I know
That
the one you mean. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
that it just looks so like 1950s America, but in Star Wars. I thought, what more can you possibly get from a diner?
Yeah.
I
Perfect.
like it. I like it. Andy, what about you?
I misread the question. I thought it was one for each. So
Oh,
I've got a TV
go
and a
for either.
film. So my TV one is in Parks and Recreation. They go to JJ's Diner, and they do the best waffles in the world, and they're like as big as your fucking head with just squirty cream and the works on, and they look incredible. And one of my favourite scenes is when Ron goes and asks for all of the bacon that they've got, and he said,
Yeah, I've seen that. I know that
"Yes."
scene. Yeah.
He says, "You may have misheard me saying that you think I want a lot of bacon and eggs, but no, I want all of the bacon and eggs that you have got." So I love that. And the film one that I got was El Jefe's food truck from the film Chef with the director of The Mandalorian, John Favreau. John Favreau starring in it. And he plays a chef who social media ends up cancelling him. So he decides to just go back to his roots. He buys a truck and starts selling Cuban sandwiches from this food truck. And they look incredible. And he just goes around all of the southern states of America making his sandwiches, buying whatever the locals are eating and selling them from his food truck, and it just looks incredible. And I do like a food truck, so yeah, I'd love to go to El Jefe's.
Oh, very good. I mean, mine's a bit of a basic bitch answer, really, but it would be Jack Rabbit Slims from Pulp Fiction. I've always had a fascination with like the American diner, and like for OK Diner to kind of be the bastion of a diner experience here in the UK is like awful. Like I know you can go to other ones, but I've never really been to one that's really felt like it's hit the spot. And when I went to New York, we went to a couple of like diner style, and but they felt more like a parody of what an American diner we think it is, as opposed to what they probably are. But yeah, like I love the scene, I love the dancing in it. I just love the idea of like having. When we were in France, we went to Disneyland and we went to the Studios Park as well, and it was. I said to Sam, which was really odd. Right, so apologies to anybody that doesn't live in Wolverhampton, which I think is probably nearly everybody that listens to this. But you used to be able to go to a place called Holiday Hypermarket, and it had like for some reason had loads of like American cars and neon lights and stuff in there. Obviously, because it was like trying to basically sell you the holiday to America, which was probably the most expensive one that they could sell you. And it just reminded me of that. It was neon lights everywhere, gas station pumps. It was just Americana, and it was brilliant. I loved it, and that's what like Jack Rabbit Slims is. It's just that slice of American pie that you like, literally going through the ages of like Marilyn Monroe and Elvis and everything else. So yeah, that was my favorite one.
Yeah,
There's an American style diner in Whip, that's got all the like the silver chrome stuff outside the front, but it's literally over the road from a building that's got a blue plaque on it. For all of the 1700s, they are on in this country. I mean, you think like no one's mentioned anything like based here. Now, do you think that there's like an American Simon Pegg podcast that's thinking about like harvesters or Weatherspoons?
yeah,
I'd love, yeah, like the versions of us going, God, I'd love to go to a beef eater.
yeah. Like a Toby Carvery. Oh, you have meat all day.
If the great nation of India their listeners from that part of the world that enjoy this podcast, can you tell us what the equivalent of a Weatherspoons is in your world, please? That would be appreciated.
Yeah, or a good burger, which could have been an answer as well.
yeah.
True.
Wonderful. Right, okay. Next week we are going to be watching, what was it called again? The Best of Times. It's not a film. It's a TV film that was a backdoor pilot to hopefully get this show up and running from 1981. It's sort of lost to the times, but at the same time, it is available on YouTube to watch for free. It is 48 minutes long and includes advertisements. So it is all in there. So yeah, check that one out and then come and join us when we discuss it next week. Get in contact with us on the socials at Cage Fighting Pod or any emails to cagefightingpod@gmail.com. Please make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss an episode of what we do. And whilst you're subscribing, please leave a review. We would very much appreciate it. Thank you very much for joining us this week, and we shall see you next week. Matthew, would you like to say goodbye?
Take it easy, everybody. Look after yourselves. Please tell a friend. Send them our way. We're not going to start charging on a Patreon for Stu to get his dick out as much as I'd like to see it. But it would be nice if we could grow a little in the second half of this year and get a few more interactions, which we always like. So tell a friend, please, and send them our way. We'd be very, very, very appreciative.
I mean, I can grow a little if depending on what you send in, but yeah. Get your pink on and go watch Barbie. Ta-ra.
And it's goodbye from me. And remember, I'm just Ken.